What's up, guys? Toad back with you for Sunday, April 13th. Losing day yesterday after two really hot days. Yesterday, I think I was 3, 4, and 2. We can go through that really quickly. I mean, that was kind of a crazy, crazy day, crazy results in that one. It started off decently and then didn't go that well from there as we did win on the Columbus Blue Jackets with an easy blowout win over Washington, who has nothing to play for. Columbus, the only team remaining in the Eastern Conference now that is not in the playoffs right now, that is still alive. The Islanders lost and got themselves eliminated, so that was great. They tied the game late after it was a back and forth close game. Then they wound up losing in overtime or maybe in a shootout, so that sucked. Chicago Blackhawks, that got there for me as they lost by 1, so they covered on the puck line. They could have won that game outright, though. They could have hit on the money line, and they totally blew it. They were winning that game 2-0 and then blew the game, lost in the end. Miami Marlins won by 1, so they pushed because I was on the -1 run line in that one just to get the price down. Being a little bit risk averse yesterday, I wound up with 2 pushes on these run line plays. Atlanta Braves won. I think I got a little bit lucky on that one, I guess, as they were down 3-1 late in the game, and they got some late scoring to get that one done. Although that's kind of why I went full game, because I kind of just like the whole aspect of it and not just the starting pitching in that one. Houston Astros didn't get there as they lost outright, so that was not going to be a win. Milwaukee was a push, and that was maybe the most frustrating one ever. Milwaukee as a +1 underdog on the run line, so they lost by 1, but they were winning that game 4-0 in the bottom of the 9th inning. And they gave up 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th and lost the game. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable how bad Milwaukee's bullpen is, and that will be a factor in today's handicap, by the way. I mean, just unbelievable. Colorado, as a +1 underdog, they lost by 2. They didn't score any runs, so what can you do? Their starting pitcher, that young guy they have there who's a pretty good pitcher, did fine, and they were down 1-0 when he was out of the game. I think it just didn't get there. And then Texas Rangers lost on the money line. I don't know what to do about the Texas Rangers now. I don't know what to do about Kumar Rocker, man, because he is not a good starting pitcher. So we'll, I guess, just forget about that. And let's go to today. We got hockey today. I'm not going to play on any of these hockey games today, man. Decent hockey slate today, decent sized hockey slate. I mean, we have Ottawa as a huge favorite. They're already guaranteed a playoff spot at this point. So I think they're locked into a wild card, actually. So not much to see there. Philadelphia did play yesterday, I believe, and beat the Islanders. So they are on a back-to-back. That wasn't a shootout. The Islanders, I do lean to the Devils. Like, this would be one of the stronger leans. If I was going to play a game, I'd be looking maybe towards the Devils here, although they have 84% of tickets, only 71% of the cash. They're up from -185 to -197, so some money has come in on them, even though it looks like the cash percentage is against them now. But the Devils were off yesterday, and if you look at the standings, I think the Devils are locked into this 3 seed in the Metro because both wildcard teams here, Ottawa and Montreal, not Columbus, I don't think. I forget, but I think just Ottawa and Montreal are in the Atlantic division. So that has no bearing on where the Devils are. So the Devils are essentially locked in as well. But the Islanders, they're in the dream crusher spot now, I think, man, as they got eliminated yesterday. So they're out, and that was in a tough, hard-fought game to try to stay alive, losing in a shootout in the end. Brutal on a back-to-back, brutal. The Devils at least have rest, and the Devils have lost 2 games to pretty bad teams in Boston and Pittsburgh. So, which I'm going to talk about that game in a second as well, briefly. So the Devils probably want to bounce back and maybe get a win here down the stretch. I think they do have one more home game after this, so it's not that final home game motivation there yet, but still lean to the Devils. Boston and Pittsburgh, I actually lean to Boston in this one because Pittsburgh did just beat the Devils. Pittsburgh's a -150 favorite, 73% of tickets, 74% of the cash on them. But I'm not sure that I love Pittsburgh in the spot as they just beat the Devils, like I said, which is a big win for them. This is not their final home game, and they have Washington up next. So it's almost like a sandwich spot, really. So I don't know that I want to play on a team that is eliminated, though, in the Boston Bruins, but the Bruins did just lose pretty ugly at home to Chicago. So I think it's good for them to just go out on the road. And prior to that, they had beaten the Devils. So if beating the Devils, if you do poorly after beating the Devils, then Pittsburgh is in that spot today. So I would lean to grabbing the Bruins as the underdog there. I just don't really see why Pittsburgh would be laying a price like this against anybody, to be honest. Toronto and Carolina, both of these teams are locked into the playoffs at this point. Carolina is absolutely locked into the 2 in the Metro. I don't think they can move at all. Tampa could do some jockeying between 2 and 3, I think, but even that I don't think is really a huge deal. So I don't see a ton of motivation here for either team, really. It's just it's just a game between 2 good teams. Carolina's up from -170 to -190, 67% of tickets, 99% of the cash coming in on them. So Carolina does have the money coming in on them. They did just crush the Rangers. So they are coming off a pretty big win. Toronto coming off a nice low-scoring win against Montreal, but I think Carolina's kind of coming off a more satisfying, better-looking win, I would say. So I'm not sure that I would love Carolina in this spot, especially laying this price. Columbus and Washington, maybe the most interesting game on the board here is Washington. Like I said yesterday, these 2 teams played yesterday, and Columbus won in Columbus. Columbus staying alive. And as we see here, Columbus is the only team left, like I said, that's not eliminated yet, that's not currently in the playoffs. And they are on the verge of elimination, very close to it. So they have to win to stay alive. So I would still lean that way, even though this is one of those zigzag spots where Washington did just lose to this Columbus team yesterday. So they would, in theory, be the team that like has the adjustments to make. And they got really embarrassed by Columbus. They lost 7-0. So that was good for me for my bankroll there because I won on that one. But Washington, they might show up with a little bit more intensity in this one just because this team beat them 7-0 yesterday. And even if you have nothing to play for, that's almost like you're poking the bear a little bit, for lack of a better term there. Poking the bear is really a Bruins specific thing at this point, man. When you go to the Bruins games, they have like the whole thing, don't poke the bear, whatever. Anyway, I still lean to Columbus, though, because they are the team that has something to play for, and that is where the money is coming in. Again, Washington down from -160, -158. 75% of tickets on them, 76% of the cash coming in on Columbus. I agree with it. I just don't think I could play it because Columbus embarrassed them so badly yesterday that I do think Washington is going to show up in this one. Edmonton and Winnipeg, arguably the biggest game on the board here. Edmonton is flipped from +103 to -111, so they're a road favorite in this one, which is basically, I think, the odds makers telling you that Winnipeg has less to play for because I do think Winnipeg is the better of these 2 teams, so there's no other reason for Edmonton to be laying a price on the road here. 74% of the cash coming in on them, 56% of tickets on Winnipeg. I do generally agree with the Edmonton side in this one. If you look at the standings, Washington, Winnipeg is sitting atop the entire NHL. They're headed for the President's Trophy right now. They basically can't be caught in the Western Conference, so they really don't have a whole lot to play for. Edmonton, though, I don't think they could fall out of the I don't think they could fall into a wild card spot because Minnesota and St. Louis are both in the Central Division. So Edmonton is kind of locked into the 3 seed in the Pacific as well. So seeding wise, I don't think there's as much to play for, but Edmonton is playing for a little bit of revenge, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe Winnipeg beat them. Yeah, right here at Edmonton not that long ago. I think that was in March. So a little bit of a quick road reversal revenge angle for Edmonton here. Winnipeg is very good at home, though, this year. 29-6-4 at home. So Winnipeg, not a lot of losses at home. So I do generally agree with the Edmonton side because I think Winnipeg has absolutely nothing to play for here. But I don't know that Edmonton really has that much to play for other than just the revenge angle and, we want to beat Winnipeg because Winnipeg is the top team right now. So I will just stay away from that. And then for some reason, ESPN has this Colorado-Anaheim game, and it's actually lined competitively with Colorado only being down from -120 to -119 against this awful Anaheim team. I mean, we know Colorado's the better team, but I don't know why this line is as low as it is. 74% of tickets on them, 82% of the cash. But it looks way too easy to play Colorado here because they are obviously the way better team. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this game is on ESPN because you got a bad eliminated Anaheim team. You got Colorado, who is in the playoffs. And I guess, yeah, I don't really know because Colorado, they have a 5-game lead over the wild card position. So they're probably not going to drop into the wild card. So I guess it's mostly just because they're virtually locked into this 3 spot in the Central. So they don't really have that much to play for either. I don't know. It is kind of a weird line. That one, I looked at that line. I was like, oh, that is pretty bizarre. But anyway, let's go over to the NBA. NBA, we got a situation where this is the last day of the NBA season. I think every team is playing. There are some very uninteresting games and some very interesting games. A lot of teams are already locked into their spots. Basically, the East is pretty much wrapped up. Like, we pretty much know what the East playoff picture is at this point. The West, we have no idea because there's this group of teams still in the West of like the teams between like the 4 and the 8 seed, I think, are still all totally in flux. Orlando and Atlanta, this is an interesting matchup at 1 p.m. Eastern here. The first game on the board, or on the schedule at least. I don't think it's the first game on the board. This is very interesting because these two teams are already slated to play each other in the play-in game. These are the 7 and the 8, and Orlando is the 7. So Orlando is going to host the play-in against Atlanta. So these two teams know they're playing each other in the play-in game, which is a much more important game than this one. So the question in this game is, which one of these teams is going to be more likely to not want to show their hand here? And it's a very difficult answer. Maybe neither team will. So this is an extremely difficult handicap because it's possible that neither of these teams wants to show anything and they just don't care about this game because why would they? Both teams are already locked into their playoff positions and they know they're playing each other next. So I think it's going to be a situation where, I mean, maybe the under would make sense just because these teams probably are not going to come out with a whole lot of ferocity here, but the money's coming in the over, up from 219 to 219, juice to the over. It is a pretty low total for the NBA, especially for a Hawks game where the Hawks don't play defense. 61% of tickets, 77% of the cash coming in the over. And maybe that's just because the lack of intensity might be reflected on the defensive side. And we know the Hawks defense is terrible. Orlando's flipped from a 2-point dog to a 1-point favorite here. And they look like an anti-public road favorite, which is very rare. It's very rare that you have a public home underdog, and that is what the Hawks are here. 77% of tickets, 70% of the cash on them with reverse line movement on the Magic. So it looks like the market indicators are all on the Orlando Magic. I guess I would have to lean that way for that reason. Orlando did just come off that big upset win over the Pacers, though, and they'd crushed the Celtics the game before that. So it's like, would you really want to play Orlando in this spot? I don't really think so. And we don't know who's playing in these games, man, because they're all game time decisions. When it comes down to it, you don't even know who's going to be in the lineup for these NBA teams in games that don't matter, which is why we want the playoffs to start, man, at this point. Although I've done pretty well in the NBA down the stretch here, just looking at the situations and not really caring that much about who's in the starting lineup. But at least when you get to the playoffs, you'll know who's in the starting lineup because the teams are trying to win, so they're playing their starters. For this game, we have no idea. And Atlanta's coming off beating Philadelphia. Like, who gives a shit? Philadelphia sucks. So Orlando's coming off the more impressive wins here. So that would kind of have me leaning the other way here, but the market is all over Orlando. I'm not going to do anything with it. The Celtics, for whatever reason, are playing Charlotte 2 games in a row. The Celtics absolutely blasted Charlotte in the previous game. Celtics were like a 20-something point favorite in that game. So now we're seeing in these games where you have a team with something to play for against a team that's one of the bottom teams in the NBA, we're seeing these absolutely enormous spreads now. The Celtics being a 20-plus point favorite in a couple of games here. They were in that last game against Charlotte, like I said, and they annihilated them by, I think, like 40-something points probably. I think it was 46 points. So it would make sense to lean to Charlotte here, but now this line is down to 11.5. So it's like it's dropped like 10 points from where it was in the previous game. It's almost been cut in half. The Celtics were like a 21-point favorite in the previous game, probably because they actually played their starters in that game. This would tell you the Celtics are probably not playing their starters in this game, and they're so deep, they're still a double-digit favorite. The Celtics backups are a double-digit favorite against Charlotte. And Charlotte does have some injuries they're contending with as well, though they got embarrassed so badly that probably it would make sense to lean to Charlotte in this game anyway, getting the double-digit points here. This is down from 16 to 11 now. 72% of tickets, 75% of the cash coming in on the Celtics, thinking that maybe dropping the line this much is actually an overreaction based on the Celtics not having their starters in. Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Next up, I do actually have a play on the Brooklyn Nets plus 6.5. Unfortunately, we did not get to the better line on this. It may actually come back up. The Knicks are down from 9 to 6.5 here. 85% of tickets, 93% of the cash. Knicks are very public here. I'm not sure by the time this afternoon this game tips off that they're going to have the cash on them, but maybe the cash is coming in on them at the lower number. But I like the spot for the Nets here, man. I do not like the spot for the Knicks in this one at all. And I think part of the reason for the line move is not that there's agreement with me here, but that the Knicks are just resting some of their players. Like their entire starting lineup is a game time decision here. And the Knicks really don't have any reason to show up, but that is why I'm fading them here, because the Knicks, yeah, they could fall into the 4 seed, I think, but do they really care? Between the 3 and the 4, there's not much of a difference. As I've been saying, you're going to host a playoff series regardless. And for the Knicks, I mean, yeah, maybe it's advantageous to stay in the 3 because maybe you'd rather play the Pistons than the Bucks, although the Bucks are always massively injured. But then the other thing is, if you think you're going to get by that first series, do you really want to have to play the Celtics, who have dominated you, the team that you can't beat, the Boston Celtics? I don't know, man, but I don't think there's that much motivation here for the Knicks. All that being said, and I think the Knicks are in a terrible spot here, as they just had Cleveland completely on the ropes, man. I mean, they were destroying Cleveland in this game, and I know it was pretty much against Cleveland's backups for the most part here, or I think it was at least Cleveland without Mitchell, I think, for the most part. I think, actually, I think Cleveland's other starters might have actually been in this game. I think it was, yeah, like Garland was in, Allen was in. I think Mobley did play as well, so I think it was mostly just Mitchell didn't play. But the Knicks were absolutely blasting them in this game, and they were leading by almost 20 points, or maybe by more than 20 points, winning this whole game up until the second half, and then they fell short and lost anyway. So I think for the second time in a span of like a week and a half, the Knicks were beating the Cavs and then wound up completely imploding and blowing the lead and losing to them. That's just brutal. I just don't really see the Knicks coming focus here after that, man. That was a huge game. The type of game that'll kind of just rip your heart out a little bit in the end. And this game doesn't really matter to them at all. They got the playoffs to be concerned with here. So it's almost like a sandwich spot for the Knicks, because they're coming off that huge game against Cleveland, and they know they start a playoff series next. So this is a game that really does not matter to them. For Brooklyn, this is their last game of the season, and it's at home, and it's against their in-city rival and bigger brother, the Knicks, because everybody focuses on the Knicks now. Nobody cares about Brooklyn at this point. Brooklyn's lost 2 games in a row in pretty ugly fashion to Atlanta and then to a good Minnesota team. But, oh yeah, this being their final home game, and you're giving me a ton of points with Brooklyn here. I think they're actually going to show up for once and play hard in this one game to try to finish the season on a good note here, because this is it. This is their last game. So they might consider this to be like a playoff game for themselves, where the game means virtually nothing to the Knicks. So give me the Brooklyn Nets plus the points in that game. Hopefully the line goes back up, actually. I mean, I don't think you really need to play that one right now, because I don't really see it dropping any further. And as I always say in basketball, 7 is a key number, because it's that 3-possession threshold where teams stop intentionally fouling. Indiana is laying a ton of points at Cleveland. They're down from 8 to 6.5, though, with juice. So Cleveland must be resting everybody. 51% of tickets, 55% of the cash coming in on Cleveland. That would tell me that Cleveland is playing basically none of their starters here. For Indiana, they don't really have that much going on either. I mean, I guess they're going to show up because they probably, I mean, they're fighting to maybe try to get the 3 instead of the 4, but do they even want that? Again, I don't know, because Indiana struggled against the Celtics as well. So I don't really know. As I keep making it so like teams want to avoid the Celtics and instead play the Cavs. Because, yeah, I do think the Celtics are actually the better team over the Cavs, although I am a little bit concerned as a Celtics fan. But I do think that some of it is just that the Celtics have historically done really well against these couple of teams. So that's the issue there for those two teams. So I don't know that Indiana is going to show up full effort in this one, because between the 3 seed and the 4 seed, I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference there, really. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. Indiana did come off an embarrassing home loss to Orlando, though, so they might show up for that reason. And that was in a Cleveland sandwich spot, and they had just beaten Cleveland, so it wasn't the greatest spot for Indiana. And Orlando, both teams actually didn't play anybody in that game, by the way. So that line moved all over the place because the teams didn't – we had no idea who was going to play for either team. And Orlando and Indiana both wound up benching all of the starters pretty much in that game. So it was all backups in that game. So that game was a total crapshoot. It seems like Indiana might play their starters again in this game, which is why the line is where it is. The next game up, I actually have a play on this, and it's on the Washington Wizards plus 8.5. I know. My plays are ugly as hell. My last play is actually going to be the least ugly, but I like the Washington Wizards here in this one, man. The Heat are down from 10.5 to 8.5, 80% of tickets, 68% of the cash. So the Heat are public. The public is not going to want to do anything with the Washington Wizards here. But again, you got to look at what the situation is, man. And Miami, they're coming up scoring 153 points against the hapless Pelicans, who basically have nobody left at this point. But I mean, come on, man. They won by 49 points in that game. And now they're returning home from that. You got to think they're feeling all high on themselves, man. I know this is their final regular season home game and potentially their final home game, but what does Miami have up next? Yeah, they're locked into one of the playing games. They're going to Chicago, and they just lost to Chicago, by the way. So it's also going to be a revenge game against Chicago in the same venue. They have to go back to Chicago. So that's what they have next. They have a playing game, which means way more than this game. So I think this is a sandwich spot, man. You got a team that's coming off looking amazing, scoring 153 points, and they got a huge technically playoff game up next against Chicago, because both teams are already locked in, man. All of the Eastern Conference play-in games are already decided. So it is going to be Orlando hosting Atlanta and Miami at Chicago. So I think this game means absolutely nothing to Miami, even though it is their final home game. I don't think it matters. And by the way, Miami is below 500 at home. They're 19-21. They have one of the least home advantages. Home advantage isn't even really that much in the NBA, but it's even less so for the Heat, who don't even do well at home at all. I know the Wizards suck in general, but I mean, come on, man. Just like I said with Brooklyn, this is Washington's last game of the season. So I think maybe they're going to want to show up for once, as they've lost a bunch of games in a row, 5 games in a row, but they did lose to Boston and their Indiana, a couple of good teams, a couple of shitty teams like Philadelphia, or that was really the only shitty team, as at least Chicago and Orlando are playing teams. But I think Washington, I mean, you got a sense of pride a little bit. You just lost by 30 points to the Bulls. I think you're going to want to show up in this game. So I will take the Wizards in a game that means absolutely nothing to a Miami team that isn't good at home anyway. So that's what I'm going to do there. Chicago's laying 9.5 at Philadelphia, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to be honest. Oh, shit. The Knicks already dropped to 5 with juice. Hopefully there's still 6.5s out there. We're going to grab the 6.5, baby. I think I was wrong about that. I think that line's going to continue to plummet. I think I am on the right side with the Nets there, but we better jump in on that like right now. Actually, let me see if I can do that right now. Hold on. Hopefully I can do that, because I just don't want to lose the number here. I don't want to bring up actual gambling sites here, but let me see. Can we still get 6.5? Yeah, I see a stray 6.5, a stray 6. Let's get it done. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. Oh man, this is the beauty of having a lot of outs, man, because 5.5s are cropping up pretty quickly there. So all right, that's good. Yeah, I mean, you want to have a whole bunch of different books that you have available, man. So that's the whole thing there. All right, let me see here. What else we got? Well, I forget what else I was even looking at here. Yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, Chicago Bulls down from 10.5 to 9.5, 80% of tickets, 86% of the cash on them. I don't really understand it, because the Bulls have nothing to play for here either, man. Again, they're locked into that spot against Miami, so they don't have a whole lot going on. They were the team that crushed Washington and they beat Miami the game before that. So coming off a 30-point win, I would actually only look to take the points with Philadelphia. The problem is Philadelphia, I mean, they look like maybe the least motivated team in the NBA right now because they thought they were going to have a playoff season. They're a team that's perennially in the playoffs, and they're not even going to be in the play-in. They had such a horrible season, underperforming their talent level more than any team I've ever seen. I mean, they had a lot of injuries, and Embiid seems to be a head case, so I don't want anything to do with that Philadelphia team. Detroit is at Milwaukee. This game, the Pistons are up from 5-8 with juice. Pistons laying a huge price on the road, which would tell you that the Bucks are basically the Bucks are going to bench every one of their starters pretty much in this game is what that line will tell you. 64% of tickets, 73% of the cash coming in on the Detroit side. And that's an ESPN game. ESPN giving us these shitty games, man, where it's like, why is this game on ESPN when it's a game that doesn't matter at all? At least the other game on ESPN does matter. The late game. This game is shit. It doesn't matter at all. Milwaukee and Detroit are both pretty much, they are locked into the 5 and the 6, I'm pretty sure. I think they can't move up or down. Either team cannot. There's too much of a gap there. There's only one game left. So Milwaukee is the 5. Detroit is the 6. It just seems like Milwaukee is benching all their starters, and Detroit, I guess, is not, and is opting to play their starters, which I think kind of makes sense. I mean, Detroit is this young team. They're not used to being here, so they kind of want to like get their starters used to this and play them in these games. So I think that's what's going on there. Denver at Houston. I definitely lean to the Denver side here. Houston is locked into the 2 seed in the West, as has been the case for a while. They're not moving up or down. They're not going anywhere. Denver has a ton to play for, as Denver could still fall out of hosting a playoff game. I don't know that they could fall all the way to the play-in the 7, but the 4 through the 7 are all separated by one game, which is still crazy that it comes down to the final day to decide the 4 through 7 seeds. So you could go from hosting a play-in to potentially hosting a playoff series to potentially having to be in the play-in. I'm not sure if that's the case with Denver here, but that is kind of the range of outcomes for some of these teams here. So Denver needs this game way more. Houston, I mean, they haven't been playing their starters for a while, man. Yeah, they might be embarrassed after these losses to the Clippers and the Lakers, but they're also returning home from a road trip to the Pacific Coast, which I think makes it worse as well. Because again, you return home from a road trip, you got that home family life distraction coming back in. You got to take care of stuff at home that you weren't able to do when you're on the road. And again, the game doesn't matter for Houston at all. The game absolutely matters for Denver. The problem is it's being reflected in the price. And Denver made that huge comeback in that game against Memphis, which thankfully for me, because I was on Denver in that game. Problem here is Denver is laying a ton of points here, man. The odds makers know exactly what's going on here. Denver's up from 7 to 9 with juice. So do you really want to lay 9 points with Denver on the road here? Personally, I do not. I think this line is just way too over adjusted here. Even though I like the Denver side, I think Denver will win the game, but that is just way too much of a price to lay. If you want to try to take Denver on the money line and try to get that price down by money line parlaying it, I mean, I mentioned some professionals like to do that. I don't like to do it because, like I said, the outcomes between the two things that you parlay are not going to be correlated. So I still don't think you get a good enough price on it, but that's the way it is. That's the way I do it. So I just have to pass on this. I do think the Nuggets will win. Yeah, I mean, anybody that's way more juice tolerant, if they wanted to lay a money line price on the Nuggets, could do that if they wanted to. 75% of tickets on them, 62% of the cash now coming in on the side of the Rockets. Thinking that it looks like the professional money seems to think this line is over adjusted as well. The next game up is my final play, and I'm on Dallas +2 here, and this is a game that matters to both teams, but I think the spot sets up better for Dallas, and I think Dallas is a bit under the radar. Dallas was an underdog initially in this game, although they were not an 11-point underdog. I don't know what's going on with that number, but Dallas is now a pick'em. They got 58, or they're actually moving towards being a road favorite here now. I found a +2 on them, but if you want to play the Mavs at any price that's in like the pick'em range, that's how I would do it. I mean, either way, you're basically playing them to win this game. Obviously, Getting on them at the +2 a little while ago is obviously better. Grizzlies, 74% of tickets on them, 58% of the cash coming into the Mavs. So some strong market indicators on the Mavs here. Even though both teams need to win this game, both teams are kind of locked into, they're both locked into play-in games. The question is, I think Memphis could potentially move up to host Minnesota. So I think that is possible for them. I don't think they can move out of the play-in. They can't. They're locked into a play-in. But I think they could move up to the 7 to host that game. Dallas absolutely could obviously host the Kings in their play-in game. So both teams kind of have a similar amount of motivation here. Both teams could host their first play-in game. But I think the thing is that I think Dallas might be a little bit more of the motivated team, or at least in a better spot here. They just had that crushing loss to the Lakers in that Luka trade kind of revenge spot there. Dallas has now lost twice to the Lakers since that trade, although, of course, Dallas didn't have their full complement of starters really in either game, but now they have all their starters back, except for Kyrie, who won't be back. But Dallas turned it around, and they ended that losing streak, that losing momentum, with a nice win over Toronto. So I think that's going to help propel them forward. I think you're going to see a focused Dallas team. And I still think the market is not adjusted properly to Dallas here, because Dallas, again, they got all their starters back, except for Kyrie, like I said. So Anthony Davis is back. They got Washington. I think Gafford is back. So I think all these guys are back. Or actually, excuse me, Washington is going to be out in this. What am I saying? It looks like Thompson and Washington are both out in this game now, and Davis is out. So wait a minute. Why are the Mavs? I apologize. I thought the Mavs are going to have their full complement of starters here. So I don't even know what's going on. It looks like Memphis kind of will have their starters. So I don't know what's going on here, man, in this game, but I'm going to take the Mavs anyway, because the market appears to be indicating on that side. So I'm shocked, actually, that Thompson, Washington, and AD look like they're all going to be out for this game. I think you are going to get Gafford and Lively in this game, it looks like, at the very least. Memphis, I just think the spot is bad for them, man. I mean, they had that crushing loss to Minnesota where they had a horrific third quarter against Minnesota. That was a close game, and then they completely imploded. And then they went to Denver, and they had Denver completely on the ropes. I know, because I was on Denver in this game. I got pretty lucky in this one. I mean, Memphis was crushing Denver in this game, winning for the whole game. And then they were winning with 6 minutes to go. They were up 108-103. They scored 1 point in the rest of the game and lost the game. I mean, that is a brutal way to lose. And now they have to return home from that out of elevation. I don't like it at all. So I didn't realize the Mavs had that many starters not playing in this game, but I'm not sure that I care, as, again, both teams just have that slight motivation where they're trying to get that, trying to host that first play-in game there. But for the, as I try to drink with the cap on my bottle of water here. But I think the Mavs are going to be the more focused team in this one for the reasons I just said. So I'm playing the situation there. I'm going to play Dallas, and that's pretty much going to do it for NBA, I think, right? Minnesota laying 23.5, as they're obviously the only motivated team here, and they're hosting this awful Utah team. Clippers and Golden State actually is a game that is a big game on ESPN. This is a game where both teams are going to be focused, man. I mean, both teams have a lot to play for here, and both teams could jump up to potentially host a play-in series, I think. I think that's still in the possible range of outcomes there. Definitely it is for the Clippers. And both teams could actually, I think, fall into the play-in as well, especially Golden State could definitely fall into the play-in. So both teams have a lot to play for here. Warriors up from 4-4 with juice. Money coming in on the Warriors side. 56% of tickets, 76% of the cash coming in on the Warriors. I probably agree with that side. Warriors did just get a win over the Portland, which doesn't really matter. Let me see here. And then the Clippers. What are we looking at with the Clippers? Let's see. Clippers just had a nice win, close win at Sacramento. Big win. They're coming off 2 big wins against Houston and Sacramento. So I think the spot sets up a little bit worse for the Clippers, I guess. But both teams are definitely going to show up there. So at least ESPN does have a better game in the second game there, which these are all afternoon games too. So the NBA is all in the afternoon. We have an NBA-filled afternoon here. The Lakers, I believe, are locked into the 3 seed now, so they don't have a whole lot to play for, which is why Portland is laying a lot of points there. Sacramento is, of course, playing to try to host the play-in against Dallas, so that's what they have to play for, and they're laying 15.5 or whatever against Phoenix, so the eliminated Phoenix team. So that's going to do it for that. Let's move over to MLB. I got a lot of Major League Baseball games, man. I think I have 7 baseball plays here today, and they're basically all unders, so bear with me. You know me. I love unders. We're going to go to the unders right away, man, in this first game. How about it? Giants-Yankees, we're going under. Even though we're at Yankee Stadium here, I mean, it looks like Yankee Stadium is a team that is a stadium that's conducive to offense. I understand that. People are only going to want to play the over in this one, man. I mean, look at how this series has gone. We had 10 runs in the first game, 12 runs in the second game. But this is kind of like getaway day. You know, it's the last day of a series where teams are going to have to be traveling after this potentially or headed into the next series. So a lot of times you see less scoring in some of these games on getaway day. Sometimes teams will rest a couple of their hitters as well to kind of get ready for the next series as well. So that's kind of factored in as well. But if we look at what's going on here, let's get to the interleague games here. This total is dropping down from 8 juice to the under to 7.5 juice to the over. I'm going to be on under 7.5. You can find that out there right now. I think it looks like it even money, but it looks like you can, probably it's still around that price range. 76% of tickets are on the over, 75% of the cash. So the public likes the over here, and I absolutely do not. We got Logan Webb pitching for San Francisco, and he's basically their ace. He's off to a really good start this season. Now, one thing that you do have to be aware of is you got to worry about bullpens when you're going unders here in the end of a series like this, because the bullpen usage is pretty high. But you know me, I don't love these first 5 unders, even though I have played a couple of them this year, especially when you're going under 3.5. I don't love them, so I tend to prefer to go full game unless there's like a real bad bullpen situation where I really don't want to. In this case, I don't think there is. And Logan Webb, what he's known for is going really deep into games. He's gone 7 innings in his last 2 games. He's looking really good so far, giving up 1 run over that entire span, 16-0 strikeout walk ratio, and only 9 hits allowed in that span. Very, very nice numbers there. Although against Houston and Cincinnati, who've definitely been struggling offensively, so he is going to have to step up in this game against the Yankees. But still, Webb, he goes so deep into games typically that he tends to save their bullpen a little bit. And against this Yankees offense, even though they are good, we have 96 at-bat sample size here. He's got a 31-5 strikeout walk ratio against them, 240 average and 652 OPS, and 2 of the 3 home runs he's allowed were both Aaron Judge. So Webb actually does pretty well against these hitters. And then on the other side, Carlos Rodon, or Rodon, everybody calls him Rodon. I think it's Rodon. People are shitting on this guy. His ERA sucks at 5.19, but I mean, I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's that bad either. And his whip is 1.15 so far this year, so that's not a bad whip. I mean, if you look at what he did last year, I don't think it was that bad. 1.22 whip, 3.96 ERA, definitely serviceable last year after a bad season with the Yankees the season before then and only a half season. Last year, it was actually pretty good. He had a really high strikeout number, good strikeout walk numbers. Not bad last year, so I really don't think he's that bad. He's coming off a couple of rough outings where he did go 6 innings in each of them, though, and he allowed 5 runs, 4 runs. Against Arizona, who hits pretty well, in Detroit on the road. I mean, yeah, he had 7 walks. I mean, that's really the problem there. He walked 7 in that span. He only gave up 7 hits, though, in 12 innings and 13 strikeouts. So those numbers are all good. So if he just stops being wild, I think he's going to be fine. And against the Giants, only 2 hitters have ever seen him before, and they've only hit him at a 188 clip with a 485 OPS. So I think Rodon does have the advantage here in this game, man. I think he's better than his stats make him look so far, especially his ERA. And he's facing a lineup that hasn't really seen him before. So these pitchers, when lineups haven't really seen them before, the pitcher tends to have a bit of an advantage against them the first couple of times the hitters see them because they have to adjust to them. And then, I mean, I think that's about all I have to say about that. And then the hitters that have seen him, mostly Adames, I think is who it was. He doesn't even do well against Rodon. So, I mean, what do you want? So, I like how this sets up there. So I'm going to go with the under in that Yankees-Giants game, and it's certainly fading the public there on that one. So I'm going with that under there. Toronto and Baltimore, Barrios actually doesn't do very well against Baltimore. I'll just point that out. Povich has somewhat better numbers against Toronto. So the money is coming in on the Baltimore side, or it was up from minus 125 to minus 128, but now the cash percentage is actually on Toronto. 74% of the cash coming into them, only 52% of tickets. So some competing market indicators on this one. So I don't want to do it. I just don't trust Povich. I've tried to play him once or twice, once this year, I think so far. I just can't get involved. I just won't do it. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, my first instinct here was, I want to look to play the under in this game. But then I looked at Chris Sale's numbers against Tampa Bay, and they're not great. He's allowed an 806 OPS to them. 279 average isn't that bad, but he's allowed some extra base hits, some walks. So he hasn't actually been that good against this not very good Tampa lineup. So I don't know if we trust Sale in this matchup. And I expect him to start turning it around, man. I mean, until we see him continue to struggle, I think he's going to start turning around, but he's not been good so far this year with a 6-something ERA. Although, however, I will say that he does have a 17-1 strikeout walk ratio so far. So that tells you he does still have command. It's just he's allowed too many hits so far. 19 hits and 14 2/3. So his strikeout walk ratio does indicate to me he is going to start turning it around. But maybe it won't be in this game against a lineup that actually does pretty well against him. Shane Baz is pitching in Atlanta, essentially has never seen him before. Only De La Cruz has seen him before and is 0 for 3 with a strikeout off him. So I trust Baz more in this game. So I actually would lean to Tampa Bay in this game, even though they kind of had their hearts ripped out in that game yesterday, but the money is all coming in on Atlanta. So after Atlanta won for me, luckily for me yesterday late in the game, Atlanta up from minus 120 to minus 163. So some huge movement coming in on the Atlanta side. I don't really agree with it. 59% of tickets, 61% of the cash coming in. So if you do like Tampa, you're getting a way better underdog price here. And the money is coming in on the under as far as the cash is concerned. 54% of the cash on the under, 85% of tickets on the over. So for some reason, the public likes the over. I would probably slightly agree with the under, but I think I probably lean to the Tampa Bay side more on that one. But I just can't play it because there's such strong market disagreement with me on that one. And we'll see who winds up being right on that one. But trying to limit myself a little bit. I'll stay away. Kansas City and Cleveland. Kansas City and Cleveland. Cole Reagans is definitely the way better pitcher over Ben Lively. But Reagans actually doesn't have great numbers against Cleveland. So I would hesitate a little bit. This is me, man. I'm going through every baseball game. Again, what can I do, man? Because I do at least have thoughts on every single one. His OPS, 792, although 263 average allowed against Cleveland isn't that bad, but he's walked 8 of them, given up a couple of homers, some extra base hits. So Reagan struggles a little bit against Cleveland, and Ben Lively does not have good numbers against the Royals either, I believe. 292 average allowed, 723 OPS isn't that bad because of a 13-0 strikeout walk ratio as part of it. So both pitchers actually have some good numbers and some bad numbers against the opposing lineup. So this is like pretty much the epitome of a stay away. Although just in general, Cole Reagans is the better pitcher. But the line is up from minus 125 to minus 132. 63% of tickets, only 53% of the cash. So Kansas City is public with less of the cash on them, but the line moved up on them a little bit. So some pretty difficult, very difficult to gauge. Next game up, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to play an under at Great American Ballpark, man. I know it's not usually the best thing to do, especially in an afternoon game with one of these two pitchers being kind of unknown here. But it is a cool game. It's 55 degrees out, and it's rainy. So that kind of is helpful towards an under, man. When you want to look for is kind of bad, like cool, rainy weather, kind of helps unders a little bit. It's still an April baseball game here. I kind of like this for the under, man. Yesterday, we've had some low-scoring games in the series, interestingly, because the Reds' offense has not been that good. We do have Pittsburgh kind of saved their bullpen yesterday. The Reds, I know they use kind of the back end of their bullpen, the better relievers that they have, so that worries me a little bit. But I think that we can counteract that by the fact that Hunter Green is pitching, and hopefully he's going to get us deep into this game against a pretty bad Pittsburgh offense. Green Green is really, really good, man. I mean, he's one of the better pitchers in baseball. I've loved betting on Green. As long as we can still get good numbers on Green games, I'm going to continue to do it because he is excellent. And last year, I think people just remember him vomiting on the mound and having an early end to his season. The year before that, he had some pretty bad numbers, but I was watching his strikeout numbers, and I'm like, this guy is going to be good. And Hunter Green is absolutely good. He's Cincinnati's ace. The other side is more of the question with Carmen Mlodzinski pitching for Pittsburgh. He's a young guy, so I still think we don't know what we're going to get out of this guy. He's mostly been a reliever in his 2 seasons so far with Pittsburgh, and his numbers as a reliever were actually pretty good. As a starter, not so much so far this season. He's only gone 5 innings once, but it was actually a pretty good start against St. Louis. 5 innings, 1 run allowed, 6.2 strikeout walk ratio, 1 run allowed. So he may be rounding into form a little bit. So we might see a decent trajectory out of him. And the thing that I like about this is Cincinnati is only 1 for 11 off of him. So they haven't really done well against him, at least when he's faced them in like short appearances. So I don't know if we're going to get a lot of innings out of Mlodzinski, but Pittsburgh's bullpen at least is somewhat rested after yesterday's game. But again, Cincinnati only hits 0.91 off him with a 413 OPS in a small sample size. But still, you're also going to need both offenses to do damage here in this game to get this game over the total. Hunter Green can help counteract that because he is absolutely worthy of being an ace, man. He's a great pitcher. I know he's coming off a great start, and a lot of times you want to look for a pitcher to regress after they do something like this. He went on the road and went 8 2/3, almost went the full game shutout against the Giants, complete game almost. 7-1 strikeout walk ratio, only allowed 4 hits, no runs, threw over 100 pitches. And when a pitcher does that, yeah, a lot of times you want to look to fade them in the next start. But he's strung together 2 good starts in a row, man. I mean, he's developing into an ace. And when you have a dominant pitcher like this, they a lot of times will tend to not regress as much. And even if he regresses a little bit, we don't need him to be that good. We got 61 at bats worth from him against Pittsburgh, and he's walked too many of them. So that's the one thing. McCutchen especially has 4 walks against him, but McCutchen is an old guy now, man. So I don't know. So the 21-10 strikeout walk ratio is a little bit alarming, but he's held him to a 197 average and 687 OPS. So in that big a sample size, holding him up to a below 200 average is quite impressive, even though Pittsburgh's offense isn't very good. And that OPS is still low, despite allowing a couple of home runs and a bunch of walks. 2 of the 3 home runs are also from O'Neill Cruz. So one guy doing a lot of damage also doesn't worry me as much either. So we're going under Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, under the 7.5 in that game. I told you I like unders, and especially when it's the last game of a series like this, except for the fact the bullpens are being used. But I like the fact that it's like getaway day where hitters can be a little bit less focused. And some of these pitching matchups just set up very, very nicely for this, man. I'm looking at the money here. This has dropped from 8.5 juice to the under to 7.5 juice to the under. So it looks like you can get a little bit less of a good price on this now, but I would still do it. I would go under 7 on this as well. I probably wouldn't go less than that, but if you want to go under 7.5 minus 115, that would be good as well. And as I always say in baseball, 7, 9, 11 are the key numbers because they're all the odd numbers, and somebody has to win the game. So that's what breaks a 3-3 tie or a 4-4 tie or a 5-5 tie. Public coming in on the over in this one because that's what they tend to do. 70% of tickets on them. They still don't give a shit that Hunter Green is an excellent pitcher. 61% of cash on the under. And obviously, Green is the way better pitcher here. So the money has kind of driven this number up on Cincinnati, but it looks like there is some take back with less of the cash percentage on Cincinnati. So I'm not playing the side here, though. I'm playing the under. And the market seems to agree with the under in that one. Next up, I have another play, and this is a side on Washington. We'll just make it simple. Money line, Washington, minus 140 here. When I show you Mackenzie Gore's stats against Miami, you're going to see exactly why I'm doing this. They're up from minus 130 to minus 140, although Washington's public with 81% of tickets and 54% of the cash is coming back in on Miami. I do not agree with this, man. Miami won yesterday against Washington. Pretty big win for Miami. As Miami, they're not a good team, man. We still are looking at a situation where Miami has the better record over Washington. I know Washington's not that good, But still, Washington, the odds makers are telling you something, lining the team with the worst record that's on the road as the favorite here. The odds makers are telling you Washington is the better team and they have the better of this matchup. And I agree with it. And of course, yesterday, Miami had Alcantara pitching, as I pointed out yesterday. I had Miami money line in this one. They didn't quite do it for me. They only won by 1. Very unfortunate because, by the way, 2 runs for Washington late in that game, which really sucks. If I played it through 5, we would have gotten a win on Miami. So I'm kind of pissed about that, as Miami did have a bigger lead at that point. But it was because they scored 3 in the bottom of the 5th. So it was a fairly close game the whole way through. Washington did do a lot of scoring based on the amount of hits that they had. They got out-hit by Miami, scored a little bit more than you would expect, given that they only had 7 hits. But Alcantara is the best pitcher in Miami's rotation, and he pitched yesterday. So that kind of explains why they won the game. He pitched better than Trevor Williams, who, as I pointed out, does awful against Miami. So Miami does not have the edge in the starting pitching matchup here. Miami did use a decent amount of their bullpen in that game yesterday as well. So we're just going full game on the money line here. Both teams used a lot of their pen yesterday, but Miami used all of the back end of their bullpen to try to finish this game off yesterday pretty much. So we're going full game here, and now let's look at these stats here, man. Mackenzie Gore, he is actually off to a really good start this season with a 25-3 strikeout walk ratio and 15 hits allowed in 17 innings. So he might be finding something, man. And it's not like he's faced weak offenses. He completely dominated Philadelphia. He pitched really well against the Dodgers. Both those games at home, though. And he struggled a little bit more on the road against Toronto. So, yeah, he has been worse on the road. But this is Miami, man. They're a weak offense. So Mackenzie Gore may actually be kind of developing into something good, man, after he's kind of been not a very good pitcher so far in his career with a whip that's been pretty high, 1.41, which isn't good. But if he's getting these walk numbers under control, he's always been a fairly good strikeout pitcher. So really it's been his wildness. And if he gets that under control, he's going to be a pretty good pitcher, I think. And we might be seeing that beginning to happen here. And I like that because a lot of times when you see that happening, like the public or the markets, they just haven't adjusted to this yet. And they think, oh, this guy sucks. When he doesn't yet. But look at his numbers against Miami. 23 at-bats. They have 0 hits off of him. Miami is 0 for 23 off of Gore lifetime. 8-2 strikeout walk ratio. That's a 0 batting average, if you can do that math, and an 0.80 whip. It's very rare that you see numbers like that, man. So I was like, I have to do this. And then who's on the other side? Cal Quantrill, who I guess had his start pushed back. He's no good, man. He's obviously the worst of these two pitchers. And he's coming off a really nice start, even though he didn't expend any energy. He only went 66 pitches, and they took him out. But he had a really nice 5-inning shutout performance with 4 strikeouts against a Braves offense that has been struggling, but it is still the Atlanta Braves. So I think he's going to be feeling pretty high on himself after that performance, even though he didn't put in a bunch of energy. So I'd like this more if he went like 90 pitchers or something like that. But he was really efficient in that game. But now he's kind of off schedule, man. And starting pitchers, they're creatures of habit. They like to pitch every 5 games or whatever. And he was supposed to pitch, I think, 2 games ago. And for some reason, they pushed him back 2 days. So he hasn't pitched for 8 days now. And sometimes when you do that and you throw a pitcher out of his rhythm like that, that doesn't help them either. And that hurts them when they come out. And he, by the way, has a 6 ERA and 1.44 whip despite that really good performance against Atlanta. That's just how bad his first start was against the Mets. I know it's a small sample size, so you can't take that much away from it, but Quantrill's not a very good pitcher, and Washington has done okay against him in 50 at-bats, 8-4 strikeout walk ratio is no good. 260 average is fine. 715 OPS is fine, but fine numbers are nowhere near as good as Gore's domination of Miami's hitters. So I'm going to go Washington in this game, money line. Xerox, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Like to see some faces that I don't usually see in here, man. This is the Sunday morning edition. Next up, we got Anaheim and Houston. And this is a game where I was like, I hate both of these pitchers. I mean, what can you say? Kyle Hendricks, I bash him constantly on the show. He sucks. Hayden Wisniewski, I mean, you don't know anything about this guy. Like, is he going to be good? Who the hell knows? Hendricks is actually off to a good start this season so far, but I think you're going to see regression out of him. I mean, I know he's on a new team this year, and he really has started to suck it up for Chicago last year for the Cubs. So maybe a new environment, a new pitching coach is helping him out a little bit, but I'm not going to bank on that. And Wisniewski, so I think we're going to see regression out of him, and I think we're going to see regression out of Wisniewski as well. He had a really good start against a weak Seattle team in a very pitcher-friendly environment in Seattle. So I'm not going to put that much stock into that game as either. So my lean in this game would be to the over, but I'm not going to do it either because both these offenses have kind of struggled, especially Houston, shockingly, has struggled. And the line is down on the total from 9 juice to the under to 8.5 juice to the over, with 71% of tickets on the over and only 50% of the cash on the over. So the market is kind of indicating against it. So I will stay away. I don't know what to do with that game, to be honest. Next up, I'm going to play another under here, and that is in the game with my Boston Red Sox. We're going under the 7 here, and it was headed towards 6.5, man. So 6.5 is kind of my cutoff because the 7 is so key in baseball. I almost never will go under a 6.5. So if you want to get this, you got to get on it fast. You're going to have to pay a little bit for it. I found it at minus 115. I'd go up to like under 7, minus 120 on this, to be honest, just to get that key number. The totals dropped from 7 to 7 juice to the under, as you can see there. You might still find the minus 115. 65% of tickets are on the over and 59% of the cash on the over. So the public still wants the over for some reason, even though this is Garrett Crochet and it's the White Sox offense and a Boston offense that I've said, even though they have a lot of good hitters in this offense, Boston's offense has not been good as of late. And looking at this, we had one really high-scoring game, one really low-scoring game. The Red Sox are also probably the way to look on the side here, as they're trying to avoid the sweep. But obviously, they're just favored by way too much here. A huge, huge favorite for Boston. So they have the elite pitcher on the mound, so they should get this game done. But that's not the way I'm going to look for Boston to avoid the sweep here. I'm going to look to the under. Garrett Crochet pitching, I mean, he's, like I said, he's elite. We know this. I mean, he's off to a pretty good start this year for the Red Sox. His walk numbers need to go down a little bit. He's a little bit wild, but other than that, he's struck out a lot of guys. He's been really hard to hit. He's been good. I know I like to say that when a pitcher is facing his former team, that team knows his tendencies, so a lot of times they'll know how to hit him. But do you really think this White Sox lineup is going to pose that much of a threat to an elite pitcher in the game? Probably not. So when it's an elite pitcher like this, I'll tend to not weigh that as heavily. And again, Garrett Crochet, this is going to be his first. That's the other difference here. This is going to be his first start against that opponent. And sometimes I will still go against what I'm saying here, but I think he's going to be happy to try to I think he's happy that he's on a better team in the Red Sox because the White Sox have been in the dregs. They had a historically bad season last year, despite Crochet being really good for them last year. So I think he's pumped up to be on a new team and to face his former team. And I think he's still going to probably want to pitch well against the team that decided to get rid of him, even though, of course, he's probably happy that he's on a team that's not the worst team in baseball anymore. But all of that, I think Crochet is going to have a fine outing, even though I know his numbers don't look good against the White Sox. Only 3 of the hitters have actually seen him in a game environment before, because, of course, Crochet, he basically has only pitched for the White Sox before. So I know these hitters have probably seen him in batting practice and stuff, but they have not seen him when he's really trying to get them out, I don't think, in like an actual game environment. When they have, they're 2 for 4 off him, I know, so that worries me a little bit, but it's such a small sample size. And when it's an elite pitcher like that, and most of the White Sox lineup actually hasn't even faced him at all in a full game environment, I still think banking on Crochet to have a good game, I think, is still the way to go. And then we got Shane Smith, the Boston guy, facing the team that he probably grew up rooting for, Shane Smith from Danvers, Mass. I like him, man. I mean, he's off to a good start to the season, allowing only 2 runs across 2 starts, although his offense hasn't done anything for him, so he still lost these games, although his bullpen actually kind of annihilated him in that first game. He walked too many guys in the first game, but then against Cleveland, he had a 6-1 strikeout walk ratio, only 2 hits allowed in that game, and I think I was on the under in that game, so I think I got that one done. I forget. Either that or no, I think I was on the White Sox on the run line in that game, actually. So I did win on that one as well because they managed to only lose by 1, but Shane Smith he's got some good stuff, man. He's off to a good start here. So I like Shane Smith as well. And of course, the Red Sox have never faced him before because he's a rookie. This is his first season in the majors. He's only made 2 starts. So these Red Sox hitters who haven't been able to get it together yet, facing a pitcher they've never seen before, who does have pretty good stuff, I think that's another advantage to the pitcher there. So that game, we're going under in that one, and that's the way I'm playing that one. Oh, thank you, Xerox. So you use my my ranting as as background noise, as a lot of people tend to do. I appreciate it. Maybe you'll like my sports ranting a little bit, and you'll eventually you'll grow to love it and get into some sports betting, man. Next up, guess what? We got another under. How about that? That's the 4th under that I have today, and it is the last one. I'm going under in Detroit, Minnesota, and this is one you get a little bit of a higher total here because these are not named pitchers at all. But I think these are okay young pitchers here who I think are going to be able to do fine against lineups that they historically do decent against and lineups that aren't really that imposing. So I think the under makes sense here. And this is an April game in Minnesota, man. So I doubt that it's going to be very warm here. Well, actually, it's 65. So maybe I'm wrong. So it's not that going to be that much of a cool game there. But I still like the under in this one. The total here is just sitting at 8.5 juice to the over, although I'm a little bit worried that we have 59% of tickets on the under, and 67% of the cash coming in on the over. So the market appears to be disagreeing with me a little bit on this one. I disagree. I don't like that the market is in disagreement with me on this, but I'm still going to go with it. Yesterday we had a 4-0 game. Not a lot of bullpen usage in this game yesterday, I don't think. So that is good for this under here. The games have been pretty low scoring in this series, but in this game, you got Casey Mize going for Detroit, and he hasn't been good so far with Detroit. I know his numbers have been awful, but he's a young guy, and he's off to a good start this season. So I don't know, man. I mean, his walk numbers are a little bit concerning, and he did have one game at the pitcher-friendly Seattle park there, but he still only gave up 1 hit in that game. Then he really did show something when he did well against the Yankees, who are an elite offense. So I'm worried about his walks, but other than that, his strikeout numbers are good. He's only allowed 5 hits in 11 2/3 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts. So those numbers are good. It's just that 6 walks. He's got to get the walk numbers down, man. That's the whole thing. So if you look at his career numbers, I know he's probably due to regress a little bit. Hopefully not in this game because his strikeout numbers have actually been pretty bad over his career, so he's not really a strikeout guy. But either way you look at it, the matchup is what kind of seals it for me. He's got 40 at-bats against Minnesota's offense, and he's held them to 250 average, 593 OPS, despite only having an 8.4 strikeout-walk ratio, which is not impressive. But Minnesota has not hit him well. So I like that. And then Simeon Woods-Richardson, I actually think Woods-Richardson is going to be motivated to kind of show something here, as he's off to a bad start this season. Although he's only allowed 2 and 4 earned runs in each starts. When you look at it like that, it's not really that bad. Although it was against bad offenses in the White Sox and Kansas City, but he was on the road for both of them. So I forget if he was better at home than on the road last year, but I would imagine that he was. So this is going to be his first home game of the season. And I would have to go back and look. I mean, we could probably look at his splits real quick because I'm just curious now that I'm mentioning it. Last year was his first full season, I think, pretty much. Where are his splits? Let me see. Last year, not much of a difference, actually. He had a way better opponent batting average at home, although his ERA was actually slightly higher for some reason. But generally, he was a little bit better at home, I would say. Not really that much of a difference. But I will say that I think he's due to pitch a little bit better after a bad start to the season. And against Detroit's offense in 26 at-bats, he's done well against. So with a 154 batting average against and 592 OPS. So Woods-Richardson, even though I don't think he's the best pitcher, and maybe some of that was because these hitters haven't seen him before or hadn't seen him before when he pitched against them, he did well against them. So I'm going to go with the under on this one. It's a fairly high total to have in this game. And I think it's kind of because these are just not named pitchers there. So we're going with the under in that game. And Woods-Richardson, I think he's going to be motivated to pitch better because he could potentially get bumped from the starting rotation because Minnesota's got David Festa. They brought him up. And they got Zebby Matthews kind of waiting in the wings there in AAA, who pitched in the majors last year. He could get called up as well. And Woods-Richardson could wind up being the odd man out just because his stuff isn't as good as those guys. So I think he might be motivated to kind of show something there. Philadelphia and St. Louis. I mean, Zach Wheeler, I mean, he's the ace of Philadelphia's staff. He does well against St. Louis in a pretty big sample size, holding him to a 222 average, 578 OPS. So he's done really well. Matthew Liberatore, I don't know what to think about him, man. He's off to what looks like a bad start to the season with that horrible 5.84 ERA, but a 1.14 whip is actually good. And he has an 11-0 strikeout walk ratio. So really, he's just been too hittable. And I think he's gotten a little bit unlucky as well. So I think he's a little bit better than he looks so far this season, although I wasn't impressed by him that much last year. I mean, he had very mediocre numbers last year, so I don't know what to think about him. His numbers against the Phillies are good in 32 at-bats, though. 219 average, 692 OPS. So the lean in this one would actually be to the under. It's not one that's going to make my card, but I would lean to the under. Looks like the money is coming in on the under now. 71% of tickets on the over, 54% of the cash coming in the under. The total's gone up a little bit from 7.5 juice to the under all the way up to 8. So there was movement on the total upward. So I don't know what to do with that one, man. Lean to the under in that one. And actually, I don't know, man. Should I consider adding that as an under? I don't know. I just don't think I trust Liberatore enough, so I don't think I'll do it. These games have been really low scoring, man. St. Louis has been playing a lot of low scoring games recently. And in the game yesterday, we had not a lot of bullpen usage either, even though Phillies use their the back end of their bullpens. They use their best relievers. I won't play it, but I lean to the under. I lean to the over in the Mets and A's game. Part of it because, of course, it's in that AAA San Francisco stadium where everything seems to be going over. But the market is disagreeing with me as far as the money, or at least where the line has moved, down from 9 juice the over to 9 juice the under. But we do see 74% of tickets on the over, 83% of cash on the over. So the cash percentage now agreeing on the over. You know what? I think I might add this one. I was very close to adding this one. And hopefully, yeah, now that I do that, watch this lose and watch the other one go under when I don't add it. The Cardinals one. Hold on, let me just look real quick, see what I can get for a number on this. Let me see. So Mets and A's, we can go over. Wow, we can still go over 9 at even money. So I'm gonna do that. Fuck it. Let's fuck it. Let's add another one here. We're going to go over the total here. I'm just way too many baseball plays, man. I know, but that's just the way that it is. So, and I don't abbreviate the A's as AF as some of these box scores do when you see like the ticker going across AF because the A's are homeless. I do A's just to make it more clear that they're homeless. We're going over 9 at even money here, 9 being the key number here. I like the over in this game. I don't know what the weather is going to be like. It's hard to even find what the weather is going to be like. You can't just look at ESPN's weather scenario there because they don't even show it for the stadium. But I'm sure you can find it. Just look up Sacramento weather. But I like the over in this one. And this game is actually it went under in the last game, although it went over in the previous game. But again, this is a very over-conducive stadium. And yesterday we did have Peterson, who's actually been pretty decent. And JT Ginn was a surprise spot starter, I think, for the A's yesterday. And he's actually been okay as well. So this starting pitching matchup, I think, is going to be different, even though I know the bullpens are in okay shape coming into this one. But this starting pitching matchup, you got Kodai Senga pitching for the Mets, and he's off to a good start with a 1.8 ERA, 1.1 whip. He's only got 5 innings exactly in each game. He is off to a good start, but let's take a look at that for a minute, man. Both of his starts so far have been against Miami. And I know the A's offense sucks as well, but he has not pitched in this stadium before. And I'm not going to take that much away from the fact that he's pitched well against an awful Miami lineup. So I think he could go over here, even though I know the A's haven't really seen that much of him. The guys that have seen him are 2 for 5 off him. So a 400 average and a 1,400 OPS with 1 home run from Langoliers off of him. The thing about this is different from what I said about Crochet with the small sample size, with a sample size where it wasn't great numbers. Senga is not an elite pitcher like Crochet is, man. So I think we can go against him here. I know he had good numbers for the Mets last couple of years, or he didn't even really pitch last year, actually. So he was good the year before that. Is definitely a good strikeout pitcher, but he's wild. But I think in this game, I think it makes sense to go over. And again, he is pitching. Or hold on, let me see here. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, I mean, I just think, yeah, the fact that he's pitching against Miami in his first 2 starts is nothing to really look at. Severino on the other side has been pretty bad to start the season, to be honest. I mean, he's an okay pitcher. He did okay last year for the Mets, but now he's on the A's. And I mean, you go from like a playoff team for the Mets to the awful A's. I don't know that you're really going to be that pumped about that. And I know he might be pumped because he's going to be angry against his former team. Like, hey, the Mets, the Mets, like, you guys traded me away, so I'm going to try to pitch well against you now. But I don't know, man. He might just be like down in the dumps about it. And he hasn't been good to start the season with 7 walks. That's not very good. He's allowed 4 home runs already. So this could be conducive to an over as well. And against the Mets lineup, he has not done well against them in 39 at-bats, 7.7 strikeout walk ratio, 359 average, and 1,021 OPS. So he has really not done well against this Mets lineup. So we're going to go over the total in that one. That was a game that I almost threw on my card, and now I am. Hopefully we don't have a losing day here, man. That's all I got to say. Kyle Freeland against Michael King in this Colorado-San Diego game here. Kyle Freeland, I mean, he's been one of the better pitchers for the Rockies, really, even though he's not that good. He's off to a decent start this year. He actually has no walks, a 15-0 strikeout walk ratio, actually pretty good. Having one home game where he actually didn't really do as well, although he still didn't walk anybody in the game, and he pitched okay against Philadelphia. So he's not really that bad, but his stats against the Padres are pretty ugly and a huge sample size. 324 OPS, 884 OPS, and a 324 average. That's not very good. Michael King is the way better of these 2 pitchers, but King actually is struggling to start the season, and he has not done well, surprisingly, against the Rockies hitters. 27 at-bats were a 296 average, 943 OPS. So I'm just going to stay away from this because King should bounce back from how bad he's been so far to start the season. I mean, he had a lot of walks in that first outing against the Braves. Starting to turn it around, I think he will do better because he is a pretty good pitcher. So I'm not as concerned about that. So I mean, just because of the bad matchup stats, you could potentially look to maybe an over in this game, but at San Diego's ballpark, not something I really want to do. And the total is crashing down from 7.5 juice to the over to 7. 66% of tickets on the over and only 58% of the cash on the over. So I will just stay away from that one. At least it looks like at least the juice on that over where I have the under in the Detroit Minnesota game is coming back down a little bit. So at least there is that. Let's see here. All right. So yeah, not a whole lot to say about that game there. And then we got Milwaukee and Arizona. I'm actually going to play a first 5 in this game. I'm going back to the Brewers again after they sucked ass for me yesterday. As they were winning the whole game 4-0, and they gave up 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th and wound up pushing the bet for me because I had them on the run line as an underdog. Thanks a lot, Brewers. And of course, I had a little bit on the money line as well. So the Brewers, I mean, this is the epitome of a first 5 inning game. You can find Brewers on the money line in the first 5 at plus 100. So that's for the Brewers to be leading after 5. And most books, you got to make sure what your book's rules are. But if the game is tied through 5, the bet will push for you if you play on the money line. So that's fine. If you look at what happened yesterday, I'm looking at the wrong game here. The Brewers used like a ton of their bullpen, and Arizona used none of theirs. The Brewers also have one of the worst bullpens in baseball right now. And look at this. They used 6 relievers, and Arizona only used Ryan Nelson. So basically all of their better pitchers are available in this game. So Arizona's bullpen is the better bullpen anyway. They're actually a decent bullpen. Brewers' bullpen is awful and got me yesterday. So this is, and not only that, but again, as I was saying, on top of that, in Milwaukee, not only do they have a horrific bullpen, but their bullpen is all used up. So this is the epitome of a first 5 inning game, man, where you really like the starting pitching matchup and you hate the bullpen situation. Freddie Peralta is going. These are both pretty good starters here, but Freddie Peralta, he's off to a good start this year. 22-4 strikeout walk ratio is insane. And he's allowed 3 home runs, which is kind of making it even worse than it would be otherwise. And he's still somehow only allowed 4 runs, even though he's allowed 3 home runs. He's only allowed 9 hits in 18 innings. So he is off to a dominant start. One of his starts was against the Yankees and then against Colorado, although it was at Coors Field. And Kansas City, not great offenses there, but still at Coors Field and at the Yankees. And he's still off to that kind of a start. That's good. And that strikeout-walk ratio tells you he is definitely in command right now. And in a 55 at-bat sample size against the Arizona hitters, 16-5 strikeout-walk ratio, 182 average allowed, and 577 OPS. So he has really, really dominated Arizona's hitters for the most part. So that's good. Zach Gallen, on the other hand, we can't say any of the same. I mean, he's a pretty good pitcher as well, but he's been off this year so far, and he's going to get better, but a 5.28 ERA and 1.43 whip so far, not good. I know he hasn't had it easy either, facing a really good Chicago Cubs lineup, facing the Yankees, which was actually his one good start, was actually in the Bronx. He dominated the Yankees, so I guess he stepped up for that game. Then he regressed again and did really bad against Baltimore, so I guess that would tell you he's going to pitch better this time if he's kind of zigzagging good and bad starts, but still, he's had 8 walks so far in 15 1/3. That's not really very good. And 9 runs allowed. So he's been the worst of the 2 pitchers so far for sure. And against the Brewers, his numbers aren't good. In 81 at-bats, the 24-5 strikeout-walk ratio is good, but he's allowed 6 home runs to them. And they're kind of all spread out. So it's not really one guy that's doing all that damage. 844 OPS and 284 batting average again. So in this specific starting pitching matchup, Peralta has done way better than Gallen against the opposing lineup. So we are going Milwaukee there. Then we got Texas and Seattle. I mean, you think you might want to go under in this one with Eovaldi and Gilbert here. Gilbert is very, very good at home. I agree with the under in this one. The only reason that I am not going to do it is because the line's at 6.5. So I don't think that you can find a 7. If you can find an under 7 at minus 120, I would actually potentially play that one. Actually, let me just make sure that isn't out there. Let me just check, because I would play the under in this game if that was the case. You know me, with the Mariners playing it under the total. I mean, that is the way to look when you're playing Seattle at home. I do not see a 7. I just see all 6.5s out there, unfortunately. I mean, you could go first 5 under 3.5, but I really don't love the 3.5 either, because it's just first 5, 3.5. You just don't leave that much room for error. But this does look like it's an under matchup here with Eovaldi pitching. He's off to a good start. Unfortunately, because the Red Sox let him go, he had a complete game shutout against Cincinnati, at Great American Ballpark. Didn't do that well against Chicago, but that was a good hitting Cubs lineup. And Eovaldi against Seattle, 208 batting average against and 602 OPS and 101 at bats and a 35-5 strikeout walk ratio. So he's almost walked nobody when he's faced Seattle. He's pretty much dominated them in a big sample size. Logan Gilbert is way, way better at home than he is on the road. It's a nice pitching-friendly environment. He does really well at home. He hasn't faced any really strong lineups yet this season, but a 25-3 strikeout walk ratio so far this year, and only 8 hits allowed in 17 2/3. So he is pitching really well to start the season. And against Texas, in 169 at bats, he has too many walks, 13 walks to 45 strikeouts, and probably too many home runs allowed with 7. But other than that, other than too many home runs and walks, he has done really, really well. In 169 at-bats against Texas, he's held him to a 178 batting average, which is almost unheard of, and then a 597 OPS. So Gilbert has also done really well against them. So the under absolutely makes sense in this game. 64% of the cash and 84% of the cash, 64% of tickets. So I would only go to the under in this game. You can find under 6.5 with reduced juice, but I don't think you can find a 7. So I'm staying away. And then my final play of the day is the final game on ESPN, which this is a complete mismatch, man. Not only that, but the Dodgers are on the verge of being, they're not on the verge of being swept, excuse me. They just lost 16-0 yesterday to the Cubs. I mean, it was all their bullpen, too. Sasaki actually did fine for the Dodgers yesterday. Brown did really well for the Cubs. But then the Dodgers bullpen absolutely imploded in the game. And their bullpen is actually pretty good, and they were unbelievably bad yesterday, but they didn't use really any of their better relievers yesterday, I don't think. But that bullpen was terrible yesterday. So off that embarrassing game, I think the Dodgers are going to show up in this game, man. And the way I'm going to play this is minus 250 on the money line. I know it's really stupid. I'm laying a huge price to do it. You're paying a huge price for it, I know, but I just don't see any way the Dodgers lose this game. They're down for minus 250 and minus 245, 82% of tickets, 89% of the cash coming in on them. If you want to lay the minus 1.5 run line because you get a way better price on it, you can do that. But again, the Dodgers, if they're winning, they will not have the final at bat there. You can lay minus one run line, so at least you'll push if they win by 1. But even on that, you have to lay like minus 200 on ESPN. So it's just crazy. So I'm just like, whatever, man. I just want to get my money on the Dodgers in some fashion here. The Cubs, what was I going to say? Well, the Dodgers are in an embarrassed mode, but the Cubs are starting Colin Ray here. And he's only gone 3 innings at most in any of his starts so far. So he's a guy that's not going to give you that many innings. And I know the bullpen game sometimes is advantageous to a pitching staff because you can kind of mix and match those starters and keep the hitters off guard. But I just don't see it happening here. I don't like it at all. Colin Ray has done awful against the Dodgers, so he might not get them off to a good start. In 56 at-bats, they've hit 304 off him with a 932 OPS and a 10-5 strikeout walk ratio and 4 home runs. Ohtani with 2 of them. On the other side, I mean, you got maybe the best pitcher on the Dodgers pitching in Tyler Glasnow, and he's off to a terrible start with a 6.43 ERA and 1.71 whip. I think he's going to turn it around, man. I mean, he has 8 walks so far in 7 innings, which is unbelievable and very alarming, but I think he's going to get it together, man. I mean, he was coming off an injury, so struggling a little bit, but most of it was just a bad start at Philly for the most part. His 5-inning shutout to open the season against Atlanta was not very alarming with 8 strikeouts there and 2 hits allowed. I mean, that's not bad. And he has dominated the Cubs in a limited sample size, 25 at-bats. He's at 15 strikeouts against them in 25 at-bats, which is unbelievably insane. 120 average against them with 425 OPS. So if he's going to start turning it around, I think it's going to be against this Cubs lineup, even though they do have a good lineup. So Dodgers money line, and hopefully I don't get absolutely crushed on that one. But when I have a lot of plays today, hopefully if the other plays are winners, hopefully that can make up for it. That's going to do it for me, man. Happy Sunday to all of you. Once again, tons of plays today. NBA, Brooklyn plus 6.5 or 7 if you can find it. Washington plus 8.5. Dallas plus 2. Baseball, under San Francisco and Yankees. Under Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Both of those at 7.5. Washington money line minus 140. So I'm on both Washington teams here. And lean against the hockey, Washington, by the way. Under 7 in the Sox battle. Red Sox, White Sox. Under 8.5, Detroit, Minnesota. Milwaukee Brewers, first 5-inning money line. Dodgers money line. And over Mets and A's. And that's going to do it. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for hanging out, and peace. Tower Gang. What am I saying? Tower Gang Toad on Twitter. Patreon.com/Tower Gang. I apologize to my co-host at Tower Gang. Go support the most offensive podcast out there. Peace, everybody.